If you're in the market for a super fast coupe, but you can't get your significant other to sign off the budget for a brand new Aston or Ferrari, then do not worry, because I have 3 cars here that offer a similar experience, but for a fraction of the price. Yes, you could point any of these at the south of France, set off and smile all the way there for less than 30 grand. So what are they? The Mercedes CL500, the Maserati 3200 GT, and the Aston Martin Db7. I'll start, as ever, with the cheapest, which can be yours for a snip at 10k. The CL500 is based on the S-Class, heavily based. It borrows the chassis, the engine, most of its structure and interior. And when something leans that heavily on an S-Class, it's going to be good. Very good. This CL500 is actually the base model. It's only got a 5.5-litre V8 that's good for 5.5 seconds to 60. The only other engines offered were highly tuned AMG ones. This has pedigree. If you are a badge snob, then the 3-pointed star does not have as much cachet as an Aston Martin or a Maserati, but history tells us that you will spend more time driving this car, while owners of the other 2 will spend more time in the garage. This is the newest of the 3 cars here today, so if you buy one, you'll be getting the most up-to-date tech, albeit over a decade old. But how does it drive? This is a really good Grand Tourer. Driving the CL is a lovely experience, thanks to the expertise of the S-Class's research and development department. It is fast, it is comfortable, and it can whip along despite its weight, 1,885 kilograms, or the weight of 18 giant pandas. You can manually override the 6-speed gearbox by using these tiny little mouse ears behind the steering wheel. The sheer size of the thing means it is not a great B-road blaster. It is much more at home as a Grand Tourer, where it's just covering lots of long distances. Put your foot down, let the autobox kick down, and you can see all those miles being eaten up under the Merc's really long bonnet. The Merc is good on the road, but what will it cost to keep it there? Well, parts are relatively expensive, as you'd expect, but compared to the Maserati and the Aston, you might be onto a winner. The crankshaft position sensor can fail, and that means the car won't start when it's cold, but it can be fixed for just over £200. So the Merc is solid, comfortable and pretty reliable. But if you want to get more badge for your buck and are prepared to spend 15 grand, look no further than the Maserati 3200 GT. Well, this is a little more lively. I drive a Maserati. Words you don't often hear, and therefore they sound a little bit exotic. The 3200 GT signalled Maserati's intention to start playing with the big boys again. It was fast, stylish and pretty. 3 words you hadn't been able to use when describing a Maserati for a very long time. This car was designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, the head of Ital Design. So you are sharing some Inca DNA with the DeLorean, the Mark I Golf GTI and the Lotus Esprit. It is eye-catching, and by the trickle-down effect, so will you be. There is not a straight line in here, and although you don't feel as cosseted as you do in the Mercedes, it is a really fun place to be. Under the bonnet is a 3.2-litre V8 that will see you over 170 miles an hour, and it sounds good. This is definitely more of a sports car than the Mercedes-Benz. You can just feel it everywhere. However, it is not the best sports car. The brakes are a bit soggy, the steering's a bit lifeless, the gearbox isn't the best. Everything about it just needs a bit of work. But what this car cannot be faulted for is its character. It is fizzing with character, and you can fall in love with that. This 3200 is from 2001, so it's not going to be a teenager for much longer. Therefore, you need to be vigilant when you're buying yours. A full service history would be ideal, because although this is initially inexpensive as a cheap thrill, a poorly serviced Maserati will come back and bite you.
So, would you be better off spending a bit more cash on this, the Aston Martin Db7, which could be yours from around 30 grand? Aston's had been boxy for far too long, and then the Db7 came along and reinvented the brand.
This is arguably Aston's most important model since the DB5. Ian Callum designed this DB7 and it went on to be the company's most produced car ever.
But its DNA was originally meant for a completely different car.
Jaguar had a F-Type on the drawing board, but that got canned when Ford bought out Jaguar and Aston Martin. It resurfaced and was given to Aston Martin, and it became the DB7, and the rest, as they say, is history. This is, without a doubt, a really good-looking car, and I fell in love with its looks when it first came out.
But for 30 grand, you could buy a brand new Golf GTI. So is the Aston worth it?
Quite possibly, if you love a 3.2-litre six-cylinder supercharged engine that'll do 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds and on to 160 miles an hour. It is a very different experience to this sprightly Maserati.
And when it comes to maintenance, you better have deep pockets.
The supercharger that helps this XJS-derived engine is a weak point. If it's whining or there is a lack of power, you could be in for £6,000 worth of bills. If it is the intercooler for the supercharger that's leaking, that's a bit cheaper at just £1,000.
All three of these Grand Tourers have been built for the same purpose, and they each have different characteristics. So, after a day with them, which would I go for?
As ever, each has its own appeal, but for me today, big is best. I will take the Mercedes-Benz.